Hello everyone, my name is Shubham Sagar and today we'll do weekly Hindu analysis, weekly current affair analysis from 12th to 17th January 2026. So Monday to Saturday. And let's go one by one. There are some dense articles, there are some very conceptual articles as well, which we have to discuss. My name is Shubham Sagar. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Cool, and you can know more about me. So let's come to the first article of the day. What will be the modus operandi? How we will be going about these articles? So we'll look at this article, then we'll solve some questions, MCQs as well as PYQs related to this topic. And in these questions or in these particular articles rather, so some of these articles will also contain mains question, so that because mains will give you rank, so you have to write some answers. So age of consent be lowered or not? If you go to 12th January Hindu, let me show you something and then we'll talk about it. So if you go to 12th January Hindu, you will realize that there were so many articles on POXO, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. Let me show you. And that was in news. And generally, it's very rare that Hindu publishes multiple articles on POXO. So there'll be one article which we'll be discussing, which is the most extensive one of all. And then there's another article on POXO in editorial section. Then there's another article on POXO on that particular day, 12th January. So let's not waste time. It's in news, so it's important from UPSC as well as from other exams perspective as well. POXO, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. It's a gender neutral law. What does gender neutral law means? Sexual offenses here can be committed against a child who is a boy, a child who is a girl. That is a gender neutral law. Age of consent here under POXO is 18. Please understand, many people confuse age of consent with age of marriage. They are two different things, guys. So age of consent 18 in the case of POXO. On the other hand, age of marriage varies from gender. Gender to gender. For male, age of marriage is 21. For female, age of marriage is 18. So they are not the same thing, right? So if before 18 you are involved in some, you know, physical relationship with someone, that will be considered a statutory rape. Remember these terms, they are important. What is statutory rape? In this scenario, consent is, it doesn't make any difference. Even if you have consented and you're below 18 and somebody who is above 18 or something like that, and you were involved in physical relationship, that would be statutory rape. Your consent does not matter. Your consent matter when you are above 18. That is the basic rationale here. And then what is happening in this box? So why there were so many articles and editorials published in Hindu on 12th January related to POXO? Because there has been misuse of POXO. POXO was, what is the basic aim of Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act? Do you remember the year in which it was originally passed, 2012? To, to prevent child exploitation. That is the basic aim. The aim is not to criminalize teenage romance. And here comes, there is another term which you have to keep in mind: Romeo Juliet exemption. What is the basic meaning of Romeo Juliet exemption? These keywords, these terms, they're actually important from exam perspective. So Romeo Juliet exemption means, let's say there is a guy who is of 17 years of age, there is a girl who is of 16 years of age. So they are very close, there's a relationship between them, and they are, the age are very close together, right? There is not much age difference between them. So in these scenarios, when there is consensual teenage romance and all, and something happened, we should not criminalize them. We should not send them behind bars. Sometimes parents use this POXO Act to, to ensure that their kids are not eloping from their family and all. So there has been misuse of POXO, and that's why you're reading about POXO so many times. Like so many articles were published in the Hindu on 12th January, and that's why we are talking about it, guys. So let's talk about this article. Let's solve some mains and pre questions. So the court urged there is a misuse of POXO Act, and that's why we are reading about it. So Supreme Court has urged Union government to consider corrective measures. There should not be a blanket thing that no, anything, even if consensual teenage romance is there, Romeo Juliet exemptions can be applied to them. And it should not be a rigid thing that anything below 18, any physical relationship, all are crimes and all. We should be evaluating them on a case to case basis. That does not mean we will change the age of consent. That will remain 18, but the meaning here is, we don't want to criminalize teenage romance. That sends a long, very wrong picture. That child is scarred for life. you know I hope you're understanding. Somebody has done something at 17 year 11 month 29 days, that is a crime. But if he has done something at 18 year 1 day, then it's fine, even though it was consensual. So there are issues here. Age of consent 18 years fixed by gender neutral POXO Act. Hope you understood what is gender neutral. The crime can be committed against a girl child as well as a boy child. Anyone below 18 is legally a child according to POCSO. Their consent does not matter, and if something happens, that is statutory rape. And there has to be mandatory reporting. If some sexual offences have happened against children, below 18, it has to be reported to certain authorities. There is no discretion as such. So this particular provision has been misused by parents to, ensure that their childs are not eloping or the children are not eloping. Age of consent and how they're different from age of marriage. These are some conceptual things which you have to keep in mind. So IPC, Indian Penal Code, which has changed now, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, 18, earlier it was 10 years, 12 years, 16 and now 18 years. In some countries, European countries, still the age of consent is 16 only. But according to Law Commission, 18 is fine. We cannot remove, reduce age of consent below 18. Then if we do that, the POCSO will become a paper law. Paper law means what? Generally, when these kind of, you know, offenses happen, more often than not, you will see more than 50% of the accusers, they are actually relatives. So if you reduce it below 18, it can be justified. Child is emotionally connected to that person who is a relative, and then he can, he or she can be coerced to say that it was all consensual and all. you know Child grooming can happen. Basically, they believe that 18 is a, there should be, below 18 we cannot change it, and you will realize more. We'll talk more about it. But yes, in different countries, age of consent is 16. In our country, age of consent is rather 18. So age of consent not equal to minimum age of marriage. Remember it, there is a difference here. Female 18 years, male 21 years. Age of marriage, age of consent, both of them 18 only. Arguments for lowering the age of consent, rising POCSO cases involving 16 to 18-year-old in consensual relationship. And that's why many people are saying that we should reduce it to 18. Law Commission says that if you reduce it to 18, it will become a paper law. Any kind of sexual mishappenings which are happening can be justified. Law fails to recognize adolescent sexual autonomy. That's why they're saying that there should be a lowering of age of consent to 16. POCSO intent was child protection, not criminalizing teenage romance. So you have to look into that Romeo Juliet exemption which we have discussed. That if they are, if there is not much age difference between them, then we can give some exemptions. And that's what Supreme Court has also done. They have used their Article 142. What happens in Article 142 of Constitution? So here Supreme Court sometimes go beyond laws. So there are certain laws and regulations which have been passed by Parliament and state legislature. Supreme Court sometimes go, against them or go beyond them because they feel like this particular case demands something special. That is Article 142. When they do that, it does not mean they are scrapping that particular law. Like in POCSO case, anything below 18, is treated as statutory rape. But then Supreme Court gives some exemptions when it comes to these close in age teenage romance and all. So they take it on a case to case basis, and High Court also. But that does not mean these means exceptions are becoming the norm. No, age of consent is still 18. NFHS 4, National Family Health Survey 4, what they are saying, 11% of girls had sexual experience before 15, 39% before 18. So these things are happening. And what we can do to ensure that, s- there is a delicate balance which is maintained, so that the kids, they're not sexually taken advantage of. At the same time, teenage romance is also not criminalized, right? Infold, it's a NGO based in Bangalore. They are saying that 24-25, almost one fourth of POCSO cases involved consensual romantic relationship. Majority of victims refuse to testify against accused partners. So we have to look into this, and that's why this Romeo Juliet exemption which we have discussed. Many Western democracies, they have set their consent age at 16, but in India, many of the commissions and all, they are against setting it at 16. Argument against lowering the age could weaken safeguards against child trafficking. So you can say that a girl who is of 17 years of age, he is adult now, age beyond age of consent. If we keep it at as, oh my god, keep age of consent at 16, then child trafficking can increase, sexual exploitation can increase, as we have discussed, and as you will see, abuse by persons in authority. Most of these, abuse which is happening, it is happening by people who are known to the child, the relatives, the near relatives. And that's why I keep on telling people, when you have kids, don't trust anybody else. Your kid is your responsibility. When you read these things, you realize anybody can be an abuser. And because anybody can be an abuser, if you're putting age of consent at 16, that child already knows that abuser. He may feel somewhat emotionally connected to that abuser. He or she may not realize that he or she has been abused, and then he can say that my consent was there. So power imbalance make consent unreliable. Basically, below 18, consent has no meaning. The child has not developed their cognitive power and all. After 18, you have a understanding of what is good, what is not. And also one thing which we have to realize is, from very early age we have to tell our child what is a good touch, what is a bad touch. All these things have to be taught. Dilution could suppress reporting and legitimize coercion. Need for sex education. It's considered a taboo in our country, but there is a need when you look at these facts and figures. Now, what are different committees saying? Justice Verma committee, they're saying that 16 should be the age of consent. Parliament raised it to 18 because in many European countries, age of consent is 16. Parliamentary standing committee is rejected. Law commission, this is very important. They are saying that lowering consent age would make POXO a paper law, and that's why we cannot reduce age of consent below 18. But yes, as Supreme Court and High Courts are doing what they're doing, they're recognizing adolescent autonomy. Who is an adolescent, guys? According to WHO, anybody from the age of 10 to 19, they're considered as adolescent. They can directly ask you in different exams who is an adolescent. So keep it in mind, adolescent. So adolescent autonomy is consensual. Like, 8, 10 to 18, 17, 18 years of age, guys. So in that case, you have to think of them as exceptional cases. Consent under 18 is legally immaterial. So Supreme Court overturned attempts to recognize consensual sex with minors and used Article 142 to avoid harsh sentences in exceptional cases. So if there are exceptional cases, a girl is of 17, a boy is of 17, consensual relationship, just few months, few days from being 18, you cannot give them harsh punishment. It doesn't look, even if law allows it, some exceptions has to be there, and that's what Supreme Court does under Article 142. So remember these facts and figures, they are actually important. So what should be the way forward? Here you will see this article saying something very interesting. We'll talk about it. So let me show you. So this line, you note it down somewhere. This is very important. These are very cool lines. What they are saying: blanket criminalization harm adolescent. This whole blanket criminalization, any even consensual relationship below 18 is statutory rape. It harms adolescent. Adolescent teenage romance. But blanket dilution endangers children. If you dilute it to 16, the relatives and all, they will take advantage. Child trafficking will increase. Basically, below 18, like, the mind is not developed. You don't know what is good for you, what is bad for you, and that's why we have come up with that blanket 18 years demarcation line, so to say. So there cannot be blanket criminalization, there cannot be blanket dilution. There has to be a evaluation on a case to case basis. And yes, below 18 will be statutory rape, but some exceptions can be allowed when it comes to Romeo Juliet or close in age exemptions or teenage romance. So, August 2025, Justice B.R. Nagaratna noted that near majority romantic relationship need sensitive treatment. If there is consensual relationship, you cannot treat them as rape, unlike when a person is abused by relatives or this and that. Highlight misuse of POXO by parents to counter elopement. So again, that we have discussed, and that also have to be taken into consideration. What is the way forward? Sex education, need of the hour, guys, need of the hour. It cannot be a taboo. We are anywhere having the largest population in the world. When we don't have education, then we are doing this. So if we have education, we will realize what we need to do. Adolescent friendly health services, gender sensitive policing, and then social support system. All these things have to be there. We have talked about the important terms. We'll solve some question. You will remember each and everything. Be with me. So what is author saying of this editorial? Do not lower the age of consent outright, but treat these cases, 16 to 18 years teenage romance, as exemptions, and treat them on a case to case basis. Mandatory judicial scrutiny to detect coercion when families are involved and when they are coercing their kids. Strengthen education on consent, what is consent, and blah blah blah. You can read all these things. A real challenge: distinguishing consensual adolescent romance from exploitation. And that's why Supreme Court and different high courts, whatever they're doing good. But yes, there is no one size fit all approach when it comes to POXO cases. And that's what this article is talking about. Now, if you see this particular mains question, guys, just give me a second. Sometimes I speak like Shankar Mahadevan, breathless. So if you see this, the rigid application of child protection laws can sometimes undermine the very interest they seek to protect. So here you will talk about each and everything. Like, so this is a 15 marker 250 words GS2. In means, there's no one right or wrong answer. You can start it with any way you want to. You can start with what is POXO Act, gender neutral, this and that, and then you can talk about religious protection, anything. You know, the age of consent is 18. Below that, it is statutory rape. But then there should be exemptions for teenage romance or Romeo Juliet exemptions. We should have it. You cannot treat all cases. There should not be one size fit all approach here. So age of consent should be 18, but yes, there should be exemptions for teenage romance or closing age exemptions and all. So you will talk about all these things, what law commission is saying. So rigid application cannot happen here. At the same time, there cannot be a blanket dilution. There cannot be a blanket adherence. There has to be somewhere a middle path. As Buddhism talks about middle path, sorry, Ashtangika mark, visa lane, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, just in a second, right effort, right mindfulness, right meditation, or right concentration, eightfold path. So same way, there has to be a middle path when it comes to dealing with POXO cases. So you can talk about all these things. Rigid application is problematic. Why? Because according to Infold and NGO in Karnataka, they're saying that 25% POXO cases arise from consensual romance. So you cannot treat consensual romance as same as exploitation, right? Mandatory reporting. If your child has been sexually abused below 18, it has to be reported. It removes discretion in genuine relationship as well. Trauma. A kid who is 17 or 11 months who is facing charges under POXO, he is traumatized for life. He will be drop out from school. He will have distrust in law in future. So you have to look into those things, and that's why rigid application is problematic. Again, you can read all these things we have discussed. Judiciary is also having divergent approach. They are not following the same one size fit all approach. We have talked about this. Challenges not whether protection is needed, but how to protect without criminalizing adolescents and teenage romance. A calibrated approach, a middle path, neither blanket rigidity nor blanket dilution is the need of the hour. A very good article, revise it and make proper notes of it wherever you are making notes on POXO. Important, guys, because in governance policy, polity and governance, GS means paper 2, you have to make notes on certain laws which are in, especially which are in news. Now, if you see this question, MCQ1, which of the following correctly distinguishes age of consent from minimum age of marriage in India? Whenever you're seeing these questions, pause me and then try to solve this question. Cool, cool, cool. So, what is the answer? The answer is C. Age of marriage differs by gender, age of consent does not, right? Romeo Juliet exemption refers to what? What is the basic meaning of Romeo Juliet exemption? The answer is pause me and then unpause me. Decriminalization of consensual sex activity between adolescent close in age. Then MCQ3, Law Commission of India 283rd report, what they want, why lowering of age cannot be done in the case of POXO, age of consent, because it would the render POXO a paper law. Cool, sir. Now let's move on to the next article of the day. 13th January, page 7, opinion GS3, environment. Article 6 is a powerful tool for India. So they can ask you, Article 6 in news was associated with what? So it is Article 6 here, we are talking about UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which always remains in news. Under this, there is Paris Agreement, which is known as COP21, Conference of Party 21. Under this, under this Paris Agreement, you have this Article 6. So this Article 6, what it does, it talks about so many different things. Let's take an example. So currently, some days back, India and Japan, they signed this JCM, Joint Crediting Mechanism. See, in Paris Agreement, different countries committed what they want to do, because there is a thing which is going on. Global warming is happening, our earth average temperature is increasing, and if it keeps on happening, then the island nations will be submerged. So many catastrophic things will happen. They're still happening right now around us as well. So to undo, or not to exactly undo, to mitigate their impact, to adapt according to the changes, we need countries to act, and that's why countries come up with INDCs, which later on became NDCs, nationally determined contribution, that they want to reduce carbon emission. So now this is one way. Article 6 of Paris Agreement is one way. It was operationalized in COP29. So this Paris Agreement, COP21, operationalized in COP29, which happened in Baku, Azerbaijan. The current COP is COP30, guys, which happened in Belém, Brazil. Any environment related article is very important for you. Why? Because UPSC and CSC, Civil Services Examination, and IFS, Forest Service, they have the same pre, because they are having the same pre environment questions. They are asked a lot. So you have to be very attentive to these environment related articles. So what we were discussing. So they came up with these countries came up with their INDCs, nationally determined contribution, what they will do to reduce carbon emission. So in that regard, this joint crediting mechanism, let's say India and Japan, they signed this joint crediting mechanism. So there are certain targets which are set for India. Let's say India has to reduce 100 emission units of carbon. India has to reduce 100 emission units. But in reality, India actually reduced 120 emission units. So India reduced 20 units more than what they were actually told to reduce. So what they can do is this additional 20 units, they can sell it to Japan. Japan can buy it. Japan will give money to India. Japan will transfer some technology to India. So that's how this joint crediting mechanism will work. So all these things will be done under Article 6. Before we talk about this article, let's focus on the keywords here. So first of all, what Article 6 lies under what? Article 6 Paris Agreement, COP21. What is happening under Article 6? Three parts. Article 6.2, country to country cooperation. Country can trade emission reduction with each other. As we have discussed, there will be certain targets set up by countries, which even countries are giving it to themselves that under our NDC, we will reduce 100 emission units and all. Then there will be a UN supervised carbon credit mechanism, which will be looking into it, whether India has actually reduced whatever they have promised or not. If they have reduced more, then they can sell their emission reduction, as we have just discussed. If India has a target or plan of 100 emission reduction and they reduced 120 emission reduction or 120 units of carbon, so they can sell this additional 20 units to Japan if Japan needs it. In return, Japan will give them money or give India money as well as technologies. So this traded units are known as ITMOs, internationally transferred mitigation outcomes. Hope you are understanding some part of it. When you are revising this thing again, you will understand more aspects related to what we are discussing right now. Cool. Article 6.4, UN supervised carbon credit mechanism. What is the basic meaning? So let's say India reduced 120 emission units and all. Who will check it? Who will ensure that there is no double counting? Maybe we are selling 20 units to Japan. We can sell 20 units to Italy, but actually we have reduced only 20. So there has to be somebody who reduced 20 additional units. There has to be somebody who's looking into it, whether double counting is avoided or not. So that has been created under Article 6.4, UN supervised carbon credit mechanism. And then 6.8, non-market approaches. It's not like only trading units has to be traded with one country or another. Japan can share their technologies even without this uh, trading unit transfer has happened or not. They can give some money to India under their cooperation. All these things will happen under Article 6.8. Even if you're understanding 20-30% of this Article 6, that's awesome. We will solve some question, you will understand each and everything. Just be with me. That's why we solve questions at the end. So now let's focus. So Article 6, first of all, Article 6 of what? Paris Agreement. When was it operationalized? Paris Agreement, COP21. Operationalized in COP29, which happened in Baku, Azerbaijan. Cool. India has entered by signing joint credit mechanism. So India, Japan, they are collaborating on this. Strategic importance. What will happen? Advanced technologies, how we can reduce carbon emission, etc. How we can focus on green hydrogen. Now these terms are important. What is green hydrogen? So you have water, right? So you have water, you do electrolysis of water, you break it into H2 plus O2, you can balance it out. So in that this electrolysis, if you're doing it using renewable energy, you will get something known as green hydrogen. This hydrogen will be green hydrogen. So all these, how we can do it in an efficient manner, advanced technologies are needed, research and development is needed. All these things will be done under Article 6. Climate finance is needed. So that will be done by Article 6 of Paris Agreement, operationalized in COP29 Baku. Beyond carpets, blah blah blah. You can read all these things. India, Japan, JCM as an early model. So this will work, and let's see how things pan out. So India has identified 13 high-end emerging technologies where they'll be working, and where they'll be trying to ensure that more and more renewables are getting produced, and lesser non-renewables are in the, like we reduce carbon emission, we reduce our too much reliance on coal power plants and all. So renewable energy with storage is in our agenda. Green hydrogen, I have told you. Sustainable aviation fuel, blah blah blah. Biofuel, biodiesel, biopetrol, we are focusing on that. There's a scheme also which we have come up with. Compressed biogas, satat. We'll talk about all these things later on. We don't have to do PhD right now only. So need from to shift from intent to implementation. What is the basic meaning here? We talk about a lot of stuff. We will become a developed nation by 2047, this and that. Just talking will not do. You have to implement it. So what India has to do, first of all, scope of activities, legal and regulatory architecture for carbon trading, how these tradings will happen, what is the architecture, do we have any statutory law covering these trading of emission reduction units and all. Then project clearances, like when it comes to carbon reduction and all, in Africa projects are getting cleared at a much faster rate in African countries rather than in India. So we need a single window clearance system. There's too much delay when it comes to these kind of emission reduction proposals and projects. We have to streamline project, we have to speed it up. Third priority, build carbon removal market. India is awesome when it comes to carbon reduction, carbon emission reduction, and its mitigation. There are two terms: adaptation and mitigation. When you read environment related topics, adaptation and mitigation. What is adaptation? So some catastrophe happened. After that, you have to adapt according to the change scenarios. That is adaptation. That is adaptation. And then mitigation is you will try to mitigate the impact. I will try to reduce carbon. That is carbon sequestration. I will build more forest. Those forests will absorb carbon. Not only forest, even biochar and ERW. They are ERE rather, enhanced rock weathering, ERW. Sorry. So they are also acting as carbon removal. Now we have to understand what is biochar and what is enhanced rock weathering. And in India, India is good in both of them. So like biochar is what? You have food waste, you have crop waste. So if you are burning them without oxygen in anaerobic scenario, then you are producing something which is known as biochar. Let me show you something and then we talk about it. So what is biochar? It is produced when you are burning, heating biomass without oxygen. Remember, this is anaerobic scenario. When you are burning biomass, crop waste, food waste without oxygen, the thing which is produced is biochar. When you are mixing it up with soil, then what it does, it removes CO2 from the atmosphere, locks carbon in a stable form. So this is what carbon mitigation. Carbon is getting absorbed, carbon reduction is happening. Enhanced rock weathering. So when you are mixing basalt inland, this basalt is reacting with carbon dioxide, converting it into carbonates. Carbonate is like CaCO3 is calcium carbonate. So this permanently removes CO2. So we have a lot of basalt, we have a lot of food waste, crop waste and all. So we can not only use it, biochar and ERW for us, we can even export it to other countries, thereby speeding up this whole carbon emission process or emission reduction process rather. So hope you're understanding how India can be a world leader when it comes to carbon emission reduction. So Article 6 can help India scale activities like biochar and ERW, positioning India as a supplier of high quality removal credits of your understanding. And then South-South cooperation. India has to come together with other global South countries. Global South countries, what is global South? Countries of Asia, Africa, South America. Generally, it is considered as poor countries, global south. We have to come together and then we can create this tier system rather. India can share this their biochar and ERW with other countries, but before we do that, we have to take care of our own needs first. So this whole Article 6 is a strategic opportunity for India to reduce its carbon emission, to do these carbon tradings and all. Yeah, let's see how things pan out. For now, this article is too technically deep. You don't have to do PhD here. You just have to understand the things which we have discussed. Article 6 related to Paris Agreement. It has been operationalized in COP29 of Baku. India has also started implementing it. India has signed a pact JCM with Japan, where what will happen? I have told you what is biochar, what is ERW. All these things you have to understand. Now, if you solve one more mains question, carbon removal solutions such as biochar and ERW offer new opportunities under Article 6. Examine their relevance. Here you can talk about. You can start with what is biochar, what is ERW, and how they are absorbing carbon, how they are an important critical component of mitigation. They will remove CO2 from the atmosphere, and that's why India can use it for their own convenience and for their own carbon means reduction. At the same time, we can also supply it to or supply them to different countries of the world, thereby becoming a leader when it comes to carbon reduction, carbon emission reduction. So you can talk about all these things. And basically you have to first of all define what is biochar, what is ERW. You can see, as we have discussed, there's no one fixed answer in mains. You can start any way you want to, but there has to be certain framework. There has to be an intro, there has to be a body, and then there has to be a conclusion. Cool. So you can have a look at it. I'm not reading it because we have already discussed this. Now let's solve this question. ITMO, internationally transferred mitigation outcomes, refers to what? What is the answer? We have talked about ITMO, and based on whatever we have discussed, try to solve this question. And I'm just taking a pause. You can pause me, you can try to solve this. Very good. Just give me a second, guys. So it is emission reduction transferred from one country to another. That is ITMOs. Again, go back to this article. This is a technical article. Revise it, you will understand each and everything. India's participation in Article 6 is important. Why? What will happen via Article 6? And again, whenever you're reading these options, use option elimination. Try to remove extreme statements. These are some ways via which you can, because even in UPSC, what will happen in pre, you will see multiple questions. Even if you're awesome, you have read everything, maximum 30 to 40 questions will be totally known to you. Rest, there you have to apply option elimination, remove statements and all. So if you see the third statement, remove India's domestic efforts entirely. No, we have to keep on doing whatever we are doing. It's just that it will supplement whatever India's mitigation efforts are currently. So third is an extreme statement, eliminated. You're left with A and B. You don't need to even check for second, just check the first one. Enable access to advanced low carbon technology. Yes, as we have discussed, India, Japan, JCM, maybe Japan will transfer technology to us, as we have discussed. So the answer is A, 1 and 2 only. So do smart study. Hard study is fine, smart study is needed. 14th January, page 22, Science to GS3, Artemis mission. What is Artemis mission? Last time in humans went to moon was in 1972. It's almost more than 50 years. From last 50 years, nobody has gone to moon, and that's why these Hawks theories comes into picture time and again. Hawks theories means there are many people who believe that we never went to the moon. If we went to the moon, why are we not going there now? That is a question which is raised a lot. The answer is you need a lot of money to go there. But the answer is some, again, that is the major reason. You need a lot of money. It's not like USA does not have money, but hope you can understand. There are other reasons also which we don't know, and we want to test it further. So basically, Artemis mission is to allay those fears that yes, we did go to moon, we have those technologies, we want to just check it again. So Artemis, first, like there are three missions: Artemis 1, Artemis 2, Artemis 3. The objective is we want to do a human landing on moon, and based on the success we will get, the basic aim is to go to Mars in future. Human landing has to happen on Mars. In that regard, this Artemis mission is a precursor. So Artemis 1 mission, they did the orbit of moon to see how moon is functioning, blah blah blah. Artemis 2 mission, you see these people, they will be going in Artemis 2 mission. Again, this mission will not land on moon. What will happen? They will, reach to space. They will do two orbiting of, or they will orbit Earth twice, and then they will go towards moon, and then they will orbit moon, and then they will reach one particular trajectory of moon where moon's gravity will take over, and that gravity will allow this particular spacecraft, or to come back to earth. Even if the engine fails in that Artemis 2, the moon gravity will allow this particular spacecraft to come to earth. So they are not going to moon, they will be orbiting moon, and then they'll be coming back to earth. And once this particular Artemis 2 is successful, then Artemis 3 will land humans on the moon. That is a basic rationale here. So Artemis 2 is a very critical mission, because if it fails, if it orbit moon, and this whole thing does not happen, moon gravity is not able to take this spacecraft back to earth and all, something fails, then Artemis 3 will be in a limbo. So if you are understanding some part related to this Artemis mission, they can ask you, Artemis mission is launched by ISRO and all. No, it's a crewed mission. First, Artemis 2 is the crewed mission. Artemis 1 was not. Artemis 1 just orbited moon. And again, when you do these things, read about these Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, you may have read about different terms: orbiter, lander, rover. Remember these terms, they are actually important. So what is an orbiter? Let's say there is a moon, some satellite is orbiting it. So this is orbiter, which is just revolving around or going around that particular celestial body. Lander will land on the moon, but will be stationary. Lander is landing on the moon, but it is stationary. Rover is landing on the moon, but at the same time they are also moving on the moon, right? They will be moving, and they'll be collecting specimens, and they'll be analyzing that particular celestial body. So hope you're understanding orbiter, lander, and rover. Rover is a type of lander, but it, unlike lander, it is not stationary, it is moving on that particular celestial body. Artemis 2, first human mission to moon's vicinity. Again, remember, it is not going to moon, it will orbit around the moon. 10 days, what it will do? It will be going through Orion spacecraft. You can read all these things in your free time. Earliest launch date target is February 6, 2026. Four-member crew is there. Out of this, Jeremy Henson is from Canada. Rest all are from NASA. CSA, Canadian Space Agency, Jeremy Henson belongs to. Now, what they are trying to do? Just see this. So what they will do? They will not land on the moon. So they will orbit Earth twice to verify onboard system, and then they will travel about 10,000 kilometers beyond the moon's far side. And then moon's gravity will take over, lunar gravity, and this lunar gravity will enable Orion spacecraft to come back to Earth, even if the engine fails, splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. So please understand, this is a hybrid free return trajectory. That means they're not going on the moon. After a certain point, they will be going on the moon's far side, orbiting it. Moon's gravity will take over and will enable Artemis 2 to come back to Earth in the Pacific Ocean. Critical test flight. Why? Because if Artemis 2 fails, Artemis 3 will not materialize, which wants to land astronauts on Moon's South Pole. Now, there's some homework for you people. Read about these terms: apogee, perigee, aphelion, perihelion. These are important terms. You should know about these terms. What do these terms actually mean? Apogee, perigee, aphelion, and perihelion. What is now MCQ6? What is meant by a hybrid free return trajectory in the context of Artemis 2? We have talked about Artemis 2. What do you understand? Choose the best option. You see all the options and you choose or you take the best option here. So, hybrid free return trajectory, a trajectory that uses the moon's gravity to naturally guide the spacecraft back to Earth. These the answer. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. Spread the word. Let's come to the next article. 15th January 2026. Page 8, editorial GS2 GS3, an exploration of India's minerals diplomacy. What does it mean? See, there are certain terms, there are certain things which are continuously in use. What are those certain things? One certain thing is rare earth minerals and critical minerals, which you have to understand. And they are not same, critical minerals. And then rare earth minerals. So what are critical minerals? As the name suggests, they are very critical for a country's economy. So let's say lithium, if we talk about critical minerals, lithium, nickel, cobalt, you need them. You need them for electric vehicles, you need them for electronic appliances, blah, blah, blah. So they're very critical for a particular economy, and that's why they're named as such, critical minerals. On the other hand, what is a rare earth mineral? Rare earth minerals are not called rare because they are in a rare quantity on earth. They are called rare because although they exist on earth, but their processing capability is very tough, guys. Processing is tough. Let me show you first of all what is rare earth mineral. So rare earth, when in chemistry you may have read this periodic table. So 17 elements, this lanthanide series, 57 to 71 you are seeing, plus scandium and yttrium, all these 17 elements, scandium, yttrium, all these 17 elements are rare earth. Why scandium and yttrium are with lanthanide series? They show similar properties. So these are rare earth minerals, and they're rare earth not because they're rare on earth, they are there, but their processing capability is how we will, there is an ore. How will you extract that mineral, the metal out of that ore? That process is tough when it comes to this rare earth minerals, and that's rare earth elements as well, and that's why they are rare. Processing is the major bottleneck. So in that regard, so hope you understood the difference between so rare earth can be critical. If some of the rare earth becomes very important for our economy, they will be critical minerals, but not vice versa. It's not like all critical minerals are rare earth. So remember these things. You can think of it this way, like when you people will, maybe you're preparing for CSAT. So you may have read about Venn diagrams. So if I make it like this is critical mineral, right? And if some of the rare earth become important, so they can be critical minerals also. Or you can say, like most of these rare earth, or maybe I can make it like this, and this is rare earth. So some of these rare earth are critical minerals, and many of the critical minerals will be not rare earth. Hope you are understanding some part of it. Now the problem here is China is a pioneer when they have lots of raw materials of both critical as well as rare earth minerals. At the same time, they're very good in processing also. And China is tightening export controls. They're not sending because they know how strategic these critical and rare earth minerals are. So in that regard, India has two things to do. That's what this article is saying. We have to build our own domestic capability. We have to see from where we can extract rare earth, critical earth minerals. And that's why the Aravali thing you may have heard, Aravali height to be reduced to standard definition 100 meter. Now Supreme Court has taken that order. Why? Because Aravalli region is very, it has a rich repository of rare and critical earth minerals, and that's why some excavation is needed. But if you see from environmental perspective, that will almost kill Aravalis. Although it's not a living being, but for some many people in Rajasthan and all those regions, it's nothing less than a living being. They, in certain regions, they worship Aravalis. So again, let's come back. In this article is talking about four approaches. Like four approaches means downstream approach, and then midstream, upstream approach, and then there is a hedge. You will understand each and everything. Be with me. We'll talk about all this article. First of all, let's focus on this thing. This is very interesting. Upstream extraction. Upstream means from where we can get the raw materials. We have some amount of little bit of raw means rare and critical minerals, but if China is not giving us the raw materials, we can look towards Africa, Australia, Canada. Midstream processing. You have got the ore, but you have to extract metal mineral out of it, right? So processing can be done in West Asia and Japan if China is not allowing us to do that. Downstream technology. So once you have extracted minerals, you have extracted metal, now you are using it in electric vehicles and all, then you want to recycle it, you want to recharge it. So battery and recycling can be done from EU and US. And then the fourth, hedge part. Hedge means Russia cannot be a reliable supplier at this time because of the things and turmoils and which are going on in Russia, So it can be a safe option for us. Hedge means sometimes if upstream, midstream, and downstream we are facing some issues, we can rely on Russia. But not in all scenarios you can rely on Russia because Russia is facing a turmoil right now. In that regard, this article has been written. Hope you understood that thing. Very important. So Australia can be a strong partner. They have a lot of mineral reserve, but they are also facing issues with processing. But yes, they can help us. Japan is also a good example. So if they have talked about how this article is saying that we have to diversify our market and we have to diversify countries. You cannot rely on China. You cannot rely on US. You cannot rely on Russia alone. You have to see different arenas. In Africa, you have this materials, raw materials a lot. We have already signed agreements with Namibia and Zambia. When it comes to South America, you may have read this ABC, lithium triangle. Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile, lithium, critical mineral. So we are doing work with them. Kanji Bidesh India Limited, they have signed a 200 crore agreement with Argentina. All these things are happening. West Asia also has a good potential when it comes to refining and all battery materials. They can be a processing hub. So we have to diversify. We have to look for different alternatives. You cannot rely on one. Russia has mineral reserve, they have scientific ties, they have processing capability. The only thing which they do not have right now is stability. They are unstable because of the things which they are going through, you know. So yeah, we cannot rely on Russia much. Although Russia has always been our all-weather friend. Canada, now that Khalistan issue is in the back burner, in between, 6 7 months back, 1 year back, Khalistan issue was emerging a lot. So that has been on the back burner. They also have critical minerals, rare earth minerals, processing capability, so we can take their help as well. Processing is the real bottleneck, and that's why rare earths are rare. Processing, not many countries in the world have it. China is awesome in that. So yeah, we have to look for different countries. West Asia and Japan can help us. Cool, sir. So that's what this article is saying. Please pay attention. Remember these rare earth minerals, they are not exactly equal to critical minerals. Hope you understood that. That is a major distinction which you have to understand. What else, guys? Need for domestic reforms, blah, blah, blah. You can read all these things in your free time, what this article is saying. Now let's solve some question. MCQ 7. Which of the following? Now, when you see this MCQ, that is multiple choice. PYQ is previous year question. 7 is the total number of questions of that particular day. So up until now, we have done 6. This is the 7th question. So yeah, why they're called rare? Because they're difficult to extract and process economically. MCQ means C is the answer here. Next article 11.1. You will be like, sir, why from 15th we went to 11.1? Let me show you. So. If we go here, so 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. So if you see 15th, let me show. So here only they are wishing us happy Pongal. So that's why there was no 16th edition, 16 January edition of Hindu. There will be no issue of Hindu dated 16 January as Pongal is a holiday. So that's why what we are doing, we are covering one day back, 11th January article. You cannot waste time, right? Every minute is crucial. So let's go to 11th now. That's why we're not going to 16th. 11th January, very important article, guys. How will US exit affect climate action? US has exited UNFCCC. We have talked about Paris Agreement, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. See, Rio Summit of 1992, which is also known as Agenda 21. From that Rio Summit, three organizations emerged: UNFCCC, UNCBD, and UNCCD. CBD and UNCCD. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. So Rio Summit, 1992, Agenda 21. Why it is called Agenda 21? Because it was talking about agenda of 21st century. So US has exited from climate change, UNFCCC deal. Now there are climate finance related things. Developed countries, they have done a lot of historical emission in the past. That's why there is one phenomena which is discussed a lot in UNFCCC, CBDR, common but differentiated responsibility, because these developed countries like US, etc., European countries, they have done a lot of historical emission in the past. They will have to provide some finance for developing countries who are still going through development and who still has a long way to go when it comes to ensuring proper economic growth. So you have to provide some finance so that they are doing adaptation and mitigation. But now when US, which is one of the biggest emitter in the world, if they exit from it, financing will take a hit. And there's a herd mentality also, guys. If US is exiting from UNFCCC, other countries can follow suit, or maybe they will not give enough money for developing countries. This creates issues for developing countries, especially those developing countries which are, island nations. So they can get submerged and all. So it's a very precarious situation. US is becoming more and more is going into isolationism. Hope you're understanding. They're becoming more and more inward. There's a term also, closed economy. They're not exactly closed economy. UPSC has already asked a PYQ on closed economy. So, what is a closed economy? A closed economy is an economy in which neither import nor export takes place. None of the country in the world is exactly a closed economy. But Brazil is one example, very close example. North Korea is a very close example. Some amount of export and import always happens. So none of the countries is a closed economy. Remember this. But in US also becoming more and more, internationalism has taken a back seat. They're doing some stuff in Venezuela. They're pressurizing Iran. They're pressurizing India. 500% tariff if you're buying Russian oil and all. And now they're withdrawing from UNFCCC, IPCC. Now, what is IPCC? It's actually the brain of UNFCCC. So IPCC, it has been created in 1988. IPCC, as we have discussed, UNFCCC emerged out of the Rio Summit of 1992, and in mid 1990s they become active. Intergovernmental Panel was before 1988, created by WMO and UNEP, World Meteorological Organization, and UNEP. Their basic work is to analyze different environmental reports, and then they will give a summary to UNFCCC. So very important organization when it comes to evaluating what is happening on the ground. So let's focus on these terms first. So IPCC, there will be some terms which we have to keep in mind. Just give me a second, guys. So IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, established 88. They can ask you who established it. WMO and UNEP. UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. Their headquarters is in Nairobi, Kenya. It is one of the few UN organization whose headquarters is located in a developing country like Kenya. So UNEP, headquartered in Nairobi, scientific assessment body. It's not a policy making body. It just analyzes different reports. IPCC. Then you will read about some more keywords in this article: Global Environment Facility, and then Green Climate Fund. UPSC has already asked PYQs on them, so please focus, guys. What is Global Environment Facility? Again, it was envisaged before UNFCCC, before 1992 Rio Summit, and basically it's a financial mechanism headquartered in US. So if US is withdrawing, maybe this Global Environment Facility, which is providing funding for environmental benefits to UNFCCC, CBD, CCD, Minamata Convention on Mercury. Remember this. They can ask you. They can ask you that Minamata Convention is related to persistent organic pollutants like plastic, which is remaining in the environment for a longer period of time. So Minamata Convention, Stockholm Convention. So basically, this GEF is a funding mechanism. If you're doing, if you're doing stuff to mitigate the impact of environmental, global warming and all and other stuff, they will provide you benefits, global environmental benefits. They are a funding mechanism, a financial mechanism. They're not doing any reporting, nothing like that. Financial mechanism they are. Headquartered in Washington, D.C. It's a financial institution, not a part of UN. Global Environment Facility. On the other hand, a Green Climate Fund was created under UNFCCC. Green Climate Fund. Established 2010 at COP16 Cancun. Now, this is a homework for you. If you know where is Cancun, you can post it in the comment section. And its headquarters is in South Korea. It is, Green Climate Fund created under UNFCCC, world's largest multilateral climate fund. So US is contributing to these climate funds via both, like, Global Environment Facility and Green Climate Fund. But if they are withdrawing, will they give money? The answer is most probably no. Green Climate Fund, they focus 50-50 on both mitigation and adaptation. We have discussed the difference between them, 50-50 goal. And role under UNFCCC, you can see all these things, work under guidance, blah, blah, blah. You can read it in your free time. We have just seen the important parts of Green Climate Fund and Global Environment Facility. Now let's come back to this article. What will happen if US withdraws? Or US is withdrawn actually. So what will be the implications now? So you can see here, US UNFCCC core framework. Now they are no longer like Donald Trump anyway believes that this climate change is a hoax. He believes that there is a cyclical phenomena which happens. Earth was witness warming, then it witnessed freezing, ice age, then it again is witnessing warming, and then there'll be a ice age. So it's just a cyclical process, and climate change is a hoax. He's not entirely wrong, but he's not entirely correct either. This whole warming is, yes, it's a phase, but it has been accentuated by human induced changes. Whatever we are doing, we are the ones who are responsible for increasing the temperature. Some amount of global warming maybe is a natural phenomena, but majority of it is caused by humans. So if they exit, they will not be responsible for any target NDCs and all. They can do anything they want to. So accountability goes out of the window. UNFCCC allows withdrawal, but yes, withdrawal of US is a very, very big sign. Automatically means withdrawal from protocols, Paris Agreement. They are no longer responsible for funding. They are no longer responsible for their carbon emission and all. They can attend some meetings as observer, but they cannot vote. And they can also, mm, you know, it can also impact Global Environment Facility, which is headquartered in US only, and Green Climate Fund. They were contributing to them because of the concept of CBDR, common but differentiated responsibility, because they have historically emitted a lot in the past, carbon emissions. So they were contributing, but now they can reduce their contribution, or maybe they can make it zero. Who is going to ask Trump? So that can happen. But there are repercussions for US companies also. US companies, they are not environmentally required to be compliable to Paris Agreement, but other companies of the world, they are required to, their countries, they have to they have to meet their INDCs and all. So now maybe many companies will not do deals with US companies because they're not very sure how much US companies are environmentally compliant and all. So it can create ambiguity for US companies. Maybe there will be different countries which will be hesitant to trade with US companies, or maybe the other way around. Maybe this can force other countries to also come out of UNFCCC, setting a dangerous precedent. This whole thing, US withdrawing from UNFCCC, setting a dangerous precedent. That's what this article is talking about. Role of IPCC, we have discussed. It assesses reports and all. So US exists weaken its role in shaping shared scientific references. When it analyzes reports, there are many scientists of US who are a part of IPCC. When US is not participating in UNFCCC and associated organization, participation of these American scientists will reduce. Maybe they can participate independently as expert reviewers and all, but yeah, the participation will reduce. Global repercussions. This whole thing is based on reciprocity, quid pro quo. I will do something for you, you will do something for me. But now US is not doing anything in UNFCCC. Other countries which have historically emitted a lot in the past, they can ask questions that if US is not contributing, why should we? And a major high emitting country, wealthy country exiting, like that is US, undermine trust in global climate commitments. Maybe other countries are like, US is not taking UNFCCC seriously. Why should we do that? Why are we wasting our money? If so-called wasting, it's not exactly wasting. Hardens negotiation position of poorer countries. Now, what will happen to developing countries? Who will give them money for adaptation and mitigation? Encourages reluctant governments to delay or dilute action. So let's see how things pan out. Not looking good in the longer run. We need funding. OECD, which is an organization of developed countries, they are giving some numbers, how much money we need and how much actually we are contributing. COP29, Baku, Azerbaijan, their countries agreed that we'll give $300 billion per year by 2035. Because if we don't adapt and mitigate, there'll be no Earth. Trump is not very concerned about it because he does not have many years to live. Let's be very honest. But world has to survive. So US withdrawal makes it harder to build trust and convince other countries to increase contribution. So again, a very, very dangerous precedent. And we don't know what is going to happen. It's like every day is a new adventure today in the global order, the things which US do. maybe misadventure, not an adventure. So US exit weakens global climate governance, weakens UNFCCC, weakens scientific cooperation when it comes to IPCC, weakens climate financial credibility when it comes to Global Environment Facility or Green Climate Fund. So yeah, not a good healthy sign. It is to both. You can read all these things. It will not only harm us, it will harm US also in the longer run. But Trump doesn't care. Trump doesn't care about a lot of stuff. Let's solve this question, guys. This mains question. Have a look at it. Just give me a second. UNFCCC forms the backbone of global climate governance, examining the consequences of a major emitter withdrawing from it. When you're seeing this particular question, you can divide it into different parts, guys. What does different part means? You can divide it into the political consequences, economic consequences, economic consequences related to funding, environmental consequences, increase in emission. In political consequences, you can say how different political countries, how countries, different countries can also follow suit. So all these things, social or social consequences, you can talk about how the quality of means analyzing environmental reports can reduce because maybe the scientists from US, they will not participate in it. Social consequences, health impact, US withdraws, which is a historically one of the largest emitter, that can lead to so many other issues when it comes to health and all, because carbon emission will increase. You can write any way you want to. If you're writing it in dimensions, politically, economic, environmental, social, it looks better. Same points, but you have to just put it in different brackets. So you can talk about what is UNFCCC consequences, weakens global accountability, excludes withdrawing countries from COP decision making, undermine trust, make things harder for poorer countries, encourages climate free riding. Free riding means now other countries, they will be like, we will do anything we want to do. If US is doing it, why should not we? If UNFCCC is not saying anything to UN, means US, why are they saying things to us? So there can be, you can see all these things. We have discussed all the points. You can have a look at it. But this is not the only answer. You can write it in your own way, as we have discussed. You can divide it into different dimensions and you can address them. Let's solve this question. MCQ 8 of the day, guys. Chepandi chepu telsu le dukadu. That means tell me the answer. What will happen because of the withdrawal of US, or what happens if any country withdraws from UNFCCC? So you see third statement, continued obligation. No, if you withdraw, there is no obligation for you, right? So third is gone. You're not a part of Paris Agreement. You're not in, there's no, you're not a part of Paris, Kyoto Protocol, anything. So there is no obligation. So third is wrong. The answer is A, 1 and 2. Always do option elimination. Let's say you don't know 1 and 2. Read all the statements first and then come at a conclusion. If you feel one statement is totally wrong, eliminate it. Green Climate Fund. Again, read all statements and then come at a conclusion. Sometimes some statements, some options will look tough. It is not headquartered in Geneva, South Korea. So third is wrong. Now you're left with A and B. You don't need to A and C. Don't need to check for one second. Aims for balanced allocation. If you go back and you read 50-50, we were discussing, yes, 50% focus on mitigation, 50 on adaptation. So A. PYQ 10 UPSC 2014 with reference to GEF. They have asked it. We have discussed GEF. What is the basic purpose of GEF, guys? Pause it, unpause it, try to solve this question. So they are a financial mechanism for UNCBD, UNFCCC and all. So undertakes, no, they don't do research and all. Basically, research and analysis of research and all is done by IPCC. So second is wrong, answer is A. PYQ 11, UPSC 2016. Term INDC sometimes seen in the news in the context of what? Pause me, unpause me. What do you understand by that? What do you understand by this particular question? Oh my god. So the answer is plan of action outlined by countries of the world to combat climate change. B is the answer. Now, let's come to 17th January article, page 13 GS3. Tusker, there is an elephant in Jharkhand who is creating ruckus, killed at least 20 people in West Singhbum district, and this raises question. This raises question, and you have to understand elephants' psychology here. So, elephant society is generally matriarchal in nature. Matriarchal means they are led by a female, right? Gestation period. Gestation period generally means, like in the case of humans, mm, we have a kid in 9 months, there can be as long as 22 months. in India, what happens? Like in India, what world over, like they say that female should get married at a certain age because childbearing and all. Male can have kids at a later age also. In the case of elephants also, they can have female elephants. They can have kid till the age of 50 to 60 years. What else is needed? And we have elephants in different regions. Karnataka, they have maximum elephants. Here we are talking about Asiatic elephants, and the IUCN status of Asiatic elephant is endangered. So these are some facts which you have to keep in mind. Now in Jharkhand, this elephant, male elephant, this is a mating period which is known as must, and in that mating phase, it is all alone. Many people believe that maybe that's why this male elephant is creating a ruckus. When they are in groups, they don't create such kind of a ruckus. So we have to catch that particular elephant. So all these facts which I have told you, which is that is important. You can see all the points which is happening there. People are terrified, and why it is happening? The major reason is elephant may be a lone male in mating phase. They can ask you what is must mating phase of an elephant, and also the other reasons. They are in a particular reserve which was created under Project Elephant. Project Elephant launched in 1992. Again, there's a homework for you. Find out about Project Tiger, other projects, Project Crocodile, when were they launched? If you know it, post it in the comment section. So, most Project Elephant 1992, under that, there was a reserve which was created. Fragmentation has happened of the Singhum Elephant Reserve because of iron ore mining in the adjoining areas. This fragmentation has also led to elephant and human wildlife conflict like this. So you can see here, Jharkhand has recorded 1,270 human deaths due to elephant attacks. That's actually a big number, guys. Last 18 years, and maybe elephants are getting killed there. The population is also declining, which is actually a worrying sign because Asiatic elephants are in danger. They are protected under Schedule 1 of WPA in 1971. Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, they give maximum protection. Schedule 3 and 4, lesser protection. Schedule 5 is vermins, animals which can be culled or killed. Schedule 6 is plants prohibited from cultivation. All these are PYQs which has been asked by UPSC earlier. So do solve them. We will talk about it. It's not like, we'll have these weekly discussions and we'll talk about more and more PYQs. So yeah. Now let's solve this question. PYQ 12 asked by UPSC in 2020. I've told you the basic rationale of Indian elephants and how they behave and all. So in that regard, try to solve this question. Try to arrive at an answer here. What do you think is the answer of this particular question? So leader of an elephant group is a female. First, correct. So you eliminate B and C. You're left with. So you just need to check second, third, and fourth. Maximum gestation period can be 22. My elephant can now normally go on calving. No, they can have kids till 50, 60. So third is wrong. So the answer is A, 1 and 2. States Kerala not, Karnataka has the highest population. So yes, correct. So the answer is A, 1 and 2 only. So yes, that's it from me, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. Spread the word. You can post your score in the comment section. So we solved how many questions? We solved 12 questions. Out of those 12 questions, how many you got correct? You can share it in the comment section. You are your own competition. You're not competing with anybody else. Just try to be better than what you were yesterday. And that's it from me, guys. Take care. Be blessed. I will see you soon.